For nearly 5 years, the official record of January 6th has remained firmly settled. The government's position was clear. Federal agencies and law enforcement were passive observers of the Capitol breach, caught off guard by the events of the day. But that consensus is now colliding with the current president of the United States. Donald Trump is directly alleging that federal agencies didn't watch the crowd. They actively directed assets to incite it. In a recent interview, Trump outlined his claim with specific details. He alleged that the FBI deliberately pushed the crowd forward, stating that federal operatives instructed protesters to, quote, go in, police, go in." He has already acted on this premise, arguing that protesters were railroaded over what he called nonsense. Trump issued pardons to convicted individuals immediately upon taking office, and he is taking the argument a step further. Trump is demanding that these pardoned individuals receive financial reimbursement, claiming they were victims of an operation run by a crooked government. The argument for informant provocation is no longer restricted to defense motions in a courtroom. It is now the stated justification for executive pardons and taxpayer-funded reimbursements. To understand the collision, we have to look at the government's definitive account of the day, an exhaustive review published by Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz. The report confirmed specific data points. The FBI had exactly 26 confidential human sources mixed into the crowd. 3 were explicitly directed to gather information. 4 actually entered the Capitol building. Yet, despite acknowledging those numbers, the Inspector General's final public conclusion was emphatic. He stated there was zero evidence of federal assets encouraging illegal acts, and declared there were 0 FBI undercover agents involved. The finality of that conclusion depends entirely on how the Justice Department defines its staff. As journalist Julie Kelly points out, there is a specific legal wall between 2 categories of people on the FBI's payroll. An undercover agent is a sworn full-time employee of the FBI working within the internal hierarchy. A confidential human source, or informant, is a private civilian operating externally, taking directions from an FBI handler. By strictly adhering to that definition, the Inspector General can claim no undercover agents were involved. But that phrasing sidesteps the actions of the 26 civilian informants who were taking agency direction on the ground. The official defense rests on this vocabulary distinction. It allows the government to state its hands are clean, without directly answering whether those contracted civilian assets push the crowd toward violence. Public skepticism toward this technical defense stems from the FBI's documented history of crossing the line from monitoring a crime to instigating one. This operational playbook traces back decades. During the 1960s, the Bureau ran COINTELPRO, aggressively infiltrating and manipulating civil rights organizations and political groups. More recently, federal informants were central to the 2020 plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Evidence at trial revealed that FBI assets were responsible for the logistics of the plot, including the planning and the funding, which led the jury to issue multiple acquittals. The agency also deployed informant tactics against Black Lives Matter organizers in Colorado during the 2020 protests, using embedded individuals to steer group activities. Against that backdrop, there are videos from January 6 showing unidentified individuals actively pushing the crowd toward the building and goading them into fighting police. The Inspector General's report does not cross-reference those individuals with the 26 confidential sources. When federal agencies have a record of paying assets to design and provoke criminal plots, the entrapment claims defining the J6 narrative become difficult to dismiss. The debate is no longer about whether federal assets were present. Both the current administration and the Department of Justice openly agree that at least 24 informants were standing in that crowd. The entire conflict now rests on their mandate. Were those informants given instructions to agitate the protesters, or did the 4 sources who ultimately breached the building decide to do so entirely on their own? The confrontation is direct. The President of the United States is explicitly stating that his own Justice Department's internal review is a fabricated cover story. We're looking at 2 rigid, irreconcilable claims. On one side, the government's official position that FBI sources did not encourage illegal acts. On the other side, the President's assertion that the FBI told them to go in. These realities cannot coexist in the historical record. The only way to resolve a standoff of this magnitude is the total release of the primary handler communications, raw footage, and internal directives to prove exactly which sentence survives.